We are close to the closing of our session. I hope we all have a successful session. I hope this session positively contributes to risk investment processes. And I would like to greet you all. We are going to discuss forestry authorization process, which is almost a milestone and which has a crucial role in risk investment. Our panelists are Recep Kaşan from Forestry General Directorate, Mustafa Tucuoğlu, Deputy Director General of the General Directorate of National Parks. However, they could not attend to our meeting. Instead, we have colleagues who will answer your questions and explain the practices in the process. Hulusi Bey is one of our panelists. Hulusi Bey, you all know him from EMRA. In short, he has profound studies in renewable energy, who worked hard for the regulation. He was the group chairman in the renewable energy, and now he is the general manager in energy. And the other panelist is Professor Dr. Ali Erdoğan. He is from Akdeniz University. He is going to give information about ecology declaration. The other panelist is Barış Ergün from Al Energy. He is going to give information about environmental protection in national parks, and he is going to answer your questions. And also we have Ibrahim Ertan. You all know him from other sessions. He is going to talk about the problems of the sector, and especially Act number 17th and 18th of forestry law. And he's going to talk about ecological system and partial practicing of the regulation. Now I would like to give the floor to our first panelist, Hulusi Bey.
Thank you, dear Chairman. Dear Chairman, esteemed participants, first of all, thank you for coming to the last session of today, and thank you for listening to us. I would like to talk about the problems in the forestry authorization process. I will briefly introduce the company I'm working in, and I will have general comments on the wind sector in Turkey. I will evaluate RES investments. I will talk about RES projects, authorization processes, and especially forestry process. Türker Energy was generally known as a construction company. Then they proceeded to energy sector, and they are operating in almost all phases of energy. We have plenty of natural gas and electric projects. If we can show this on a map, our latest project is the One Lake distribution. There we have almost 500 megawatt capacity. We are selling 2 billion kilowatt hour electric. We have 14 HES projects. 2 are operating right now, and while the process is ongoing in 6 of them. Also we have natural gas projects. As you can see on the bottom, we have wind projects. We work hard for them. We complete the necessary authorization processes and try to proceed to construction process. Also finally in Alaşehir Gediz Gravel we have 2 geothermal fields. Our 24 megawatt facility is going to start operating on May 2014. We are planning to produce up to 90 megawatt here. When we turn back to our general subject, Turkey has a wind potential. Its wind potential was announced as 48,000 megawatt. This is an efficient capacity for us. I hope we will benefit from all of this potential and gain this into national economy. Did the government do anything to evaluate this potential? As a first step, the government enacted TWEC law, as you may all know. They provided 10 years of purchasing guarantee. Secondly, they defined a target. They are making the necessary preparations to get 20,000 megawatt capacity by 2023. Who defined this 20,000 megawatt? It's not only the policy of energy Ministry of Energy, but also the government. So for this 20,000 megawatts to put into operation, as investors, we believe that all ministries should follow this policy. Is the system sufficient to fulfill 20,000 megawatts capacity? In the beginnings of 2007, as you may know, TWEC announced 12,000 megawatts attachable wind capacity. When wind energy connected individually to the system, it has a demolishing impact on the system. It can connect 5% of the short circuit. Then TWEC did something good. They abolished this 5% amount. They created the possibility to announce additional megawatt capacities in order to reach 20,000 megawatts. TWEC general manager announced that they are going to have 3,000 megawatts capacity. This is a result of the abolition of that 5% amount. Colleagues talked about the number of licenses that are under operation. As of 2012, 9.507 megawatt licensing has been given. Now 105,000 megawatt licensing is waiting to be given. What is it waiting for? As they did not receive chat, they are waiting for EMRA to give licenses. And to obtain chat, they need the opinion of General Manager of the Directorate General of Environment Safety and National Parks. So 1,500 megawatt licenses have not been given yet. You will see the details in the next slides. We have the policy, we have the potential. Government did what they should do. When we look at the financing environment, unfortunately there is nothing called the financing practices. Everybody provides you financing, but at the end of the day, they request your personal warrant. So this negatively impacts many wind projects, true wind projects. Our expectation is a self-financing model for RES. When we come back to our main subject, which is RES investment environment, let us summarize. We have the potential, it's suitable, states 20,000 megawatts target, and TWEC law is, I think, suitable. For the financing, there is a bottleneck. As they talked about it in the morning, the current license holders have 6 months before the construction, and in the 24-month period after obtaining the pre-license, there are some authorizations we should get. One is the acquisition of proprietary right and the right to use of the field you are going to use. First one is expropriation or purchasing, and the other one is obtaining forestry authorization. If you are going to get an authorization, then you should give a certain authorization commitment. In order to obtain forestry authorization, you need to submit your ornithologic evaluation report. There is the source problem here. You need to get the chat in order to obtain normal authorization. If you cannot obtain it, then you cannot apply for forestry. Interestingly enough, in order to obtain chat, you need the opinion of General Manager of the Directorate General of Environment Safety and National Parks. So here there's a paradox. I guess Barış will probably talk about this, as they did not obtain chat. I guess they are having some problems because General Manager of Environment Safety and National Parks does not give the permission. The other thing is connection to the system agreement. There are TEAs to be taken for military zones. Here the most important thing is the chat document. Now almost 1,500 projects that cannot get obtained chat are waiting in EMRA. This is because the Directorate General of Environment, Safety and National Parks has not given its opinion yet. The second thing is that one of the most important aspects of pre-licensing and licensing is the approval of facility construction plans. For these facility construction plans, you need to perform a site investigation for drilling. And in order to make drilling, you need to obtain drilling authorization permit from the forestry so that you can initiate construction. You need to obtain forestry authorization. You need to obtain forestry authorization regarding central field, power plant field. These two are given by the Ministry of Forestry. Unfortunately, there is a blocking in this process. We could not find out which law or which act is blocking this. Our expectation is that today participants from General Directorate of Environmental Safety and National Parks and Forestry of Ministry of Forestry would be there and hear our problems and answer our questions. But in fact, to be honest, we are left alone. The only consolation is that the representative, the chairman of Ministry of Energy is here. We hope he hears our voices, transfers to the relevant authorities. There are two authorizations regarding the forestry authorization. We are paying forestation amount, which is a one-time payment corresponding to almost 10,000 Turkish lira. But they published a new statement, and according to this statement, they quintupled it. However, they are unable to put this into effect. Right now, they are even unable to put into practice the statement they published. But there is such a statement, signed by Ibrahim Çiftçi, the general manager of, and sent to all regional directorates. We are requested to give a commitment depending on the closure rate during precise authorization. Leaving aside payment, we have not even reached there. Even if we reach there, it is impossible for us to pay that amount because this ruins the feasibility of the project. Secondly is the field authorization permits that are given. This is full of different formulas. The most important part of it for us is that they prepared a regulation draft according to Act No. 17 and 18 of the Forestry Law to obtain forestry authorization cost. They had discussions about it, but they could not publish it. These amounts are 24 times higher than the previous ones. For instance, forestry authorization cost for a 100 hectare area, you need to pay about 500,000 Turkish lira. You are requested to pay 15% of it according to the TWEC law in the first 10 years. After 10 years, you have to pay the whole. The discount amount is 75,000 Turkish lira. According to this draft, this rises to 1.8 million Turkish lira. 10 years later, you are going to pay 1.8 million Turkish lira. First of all, during this 10-year period, and after this 10 years, you are going to pay 12 million. So in these circumstances, there will be no wind projects to be operated. You just think about it. You need to pay forestry authorization cost each year for 1.8 million Turkish lira or 50 megawatt capacity. It is almost the cost of a turbine. This is impossible. Putting this into the draft is certainly not logical. I hope there will be a rational increase, for instance, considering the inflation rates. We will be waiting for this to be completed. We think that this increase in forestry authorization costs will negatively impact because this brings a huge amount of cost and the feasibility of projects may become a danger. We are always talking about 20,000 megawatt target for 2023. If this attitude of Ministry of Forestry continues, we cannot even dream of 20,000 megawatt. When you think about it, forestry financing burden is almost the 15% of the budget. I tried to reflect it some minutes ago. It is 12 million Turkish lira for a 50 megawatt power plant. This is impossible. If the Minister of Forestry would have come here, then he should have seen. I hope they will hear our voices from these records. The realization of this 20,000 megawatt is completely depends on the Ministry of Forestry. I hope they give up this decision. If we fail to reach the target, then the reason. Then it is up to the Ministry of Forestry and the relevant general directorates. We need to get chat. This is the second aspect. We need to obtain chat during pre-licensing process. In order to obtain chat, ornithological ecologic evaluation report should be given by the Ministry of the General Directorate of Environmental Safety and National Parks. Unfortunately, we could not receive opinions for about 9 months. Their rationale for not giving an opinion is that they published a declaration draft and sent it. Here there was such an item, especially in the article number 5. You can never perform wind projects in Istanbul City, in Yeniköy, Şarköy, and the southern regions of the residential areas. In Gelibolu, you cannot construct wind power plants. I would like to ask you one thing. You cannot do such a thing. If the Republic of Turkey is a state of law, then you have to enact a law. If you really want to do this. I just cannot find the proper word. I really feel sorry when I read them. I've worked on regulations for years. You cannot do such things with just a statement. I just don't want to speak more about it, because they are not here. If they were there, then I would speak more. Thus, this statement was retracted, but it is considered to be published as a notice. I hope they won't publish it. If they do, we will take the necessary legal actions. I will be the first one to sue them. I'm going to sue them on the day it is published. You know, all of our licenses are facing the danger of cancellation. They are agonizing to get these licenses in 6 months. We need to get chat. So they are going to give us 90 days for chat. And if we fail to obtain chat in 90 days, then they are going to cancel our licenses. We'll just watch what is going on, right? Including the abbreviation of rights. I'm going to sue them one by one. I'm announcing this here. Also, another important aspect is that the General Directorate of Environmental Safety and National Parks wants to track you in order to give you the report and opinion. They tracked our three of our projects. They tracked in the spring season, discussed with the lecturers, and we have it done. They told us, yes, you did the spring period, but you should do the autumn period also. Distinguished colleagues, how are we going to do this? We have only 6 months. 2 trackings mean 1 year. If their attitude continues that way, as they said in the morning, you need to obtain chat in 24 months, and you need to do the expropriation. You need to construct the plant, and these will all nothing but a dream. My expectation is that I wish Elif Hanım was there and listens to me. They are saying that these are not force majeure. At the end, the law was paid by the bureaucrats here. I believe this law cannot last longer. I believe it's going to change in 6 months or so. We will see it all together. So, this is how it is written in the law, and this is what shall we do is a wrong attitude. Just be fair. Here, one institution put on the brakes, the other speeds up, cannot even move. At the end of the day, they will say, no, this is not force majeure. Although you are right, this is not force majeure. This is unacceptable. I believe that this law will be amended in a very short period of time. Our expectation is that nobody gets hurt, and these will be changed before anyone gets hurt, because recovery period is very hard. As a result, we think that the environment in Turkey is suitable for wind investment. There are many malfunctions in many practices. These shall be fulfilled as soon as possible. Bureaucratic blockings should be eliminated. Authorization processes should not deter investors. So they prepared an increased draft out of nowhere. For example, the inflation rate can be set. Do you think the authorization process for forestry fields should be reconsidered? Why should it be reconsidered? Because the time period given to you is very limited. In 24 months, you need to obtain forestry authorization, and you need to obtain precise authorization, go and get obtain chat, and then come back and do the expropriation. These all take time. Or General Directorate of Forestry has to look for the possibility to shorten the period of authorization. The processes should be accelerated. For the new license applications, you know, they are going to announce 3000 megawatt capacity. I believe, and I insist, none of our colleagues have obtained authorization for forestry. They cannot. So new entrepreneurs are unable to enter into the sector. Thank you for listening to me. Regards.
We thank him. I would like to talk a bit about what Hulusi has just talked about, both for the Act No. 17 and 18 of Forestry Law and Ecosystem Declaration. You know the relevant regulation has not yet been published. You come to our ministry to take our opinions a short time ago. We responded negatively. Why did we respond negatively? Talk about it briefly. You know our 20,000 megawatt target. The ministry said that we saved not 600 million Turkish lira, dollars, natural gas, thanks to wind energy last year. This corresponds to almost 2000 or less megawatt capacity. At the end of 2007, it was 1,700 megawatts, but now it exceeded 2,000 megawatts. But eventually, we obtained $600 million of saving of natural gas with less than 2,000 megawatt capacity. If we calculate this as 20,000 megawatts for low capacity winds, and according to the today's rates for wind turbines operating 3,000 hours, we will save $6 billion on natural gas. We are offering them 50 years of licenses. We multiply it with 50, corresponds to $300,000 billion in today's rates. When we consider the reduction in natural gas, we can think that the prices will go up. Then 50 years from now, of course I am mentioning 20 years, 50 years from the point when we install 20,000 megawatts capacity. It then corresponds to almost $1 trillion only for RES, the energy produced throughout its license. When we double this amount for solar power, this sums up to $3 trillion. This is the reason why we may not see this $3 trillion, but I don't think I made that long. I don't think so. I guess nobody in this hall can see that happen. But when we calculate this for the newborn, if we take the average age as 65, and if we reach 20,000 megawatt 10 years from now, then none of us have the right to make our newborn children pay this $3 trillion. On the other hand, there is no representatives from the General Directorate of Forestry. Actually, while our target is 20,000 megawatts, we also considered the environmental impacts of it, because this technology develops alongside with environment. It is developed especially due to the concerns of Europe. They have the concern that the resources may be decreased, and I believe regs should attach great importance to environment, because this is an environmentalist sector, and I think it is environmental friendly. But this attitude is unacceptable. We need energy, no matter what happens in nature. Let the forests catch fire. We cannot say so. We need to protect them. I think the relation between Rex and nature resembles to the relation between the mother and her child. The target was 20,000 megawatts. A child will be born. The mother-to-be should practice some standards before her child is born. Environmentalists are maybe thinking of that mother. Maybe this can be the perspective. But of course, the recipe here is to avoid the child from being born. If the child is not born, as I said, we will lose only 1 million for Hess. I do not want to take your time. As a result, we need to perform this hand in hand. We have to attach importance to environment. Otherwise, we will experience the old but devastating events we had been through in the past. Now I would like to give the floor to our second panelist. I'll give the floor to Professor Dr. Ali Erdoğan. Yes, the floor is yours. Thank you, dear Chairman. Dear Chairman, distinguished participants, I greet you with respect. I certainly agree with Hulusi Bey. We had a study with Barış Bey in springtime in the rest field. So let me talk about this in the beginning of my speech. I performed this study with engineers from Çanakkale branch. I mean the whole migration activities. The birds in the field, local birds. I guess this is one of the most poorest trekking areas. I guess we have not received any response yet. I am the head of the Department of Ecology in Biology in Akdeniz University. Since 1980, I have prepared management plans, biodiversity, inventories and researches on birds and wildlife in Turkey, especially in the last 4 years, meaning from 2009 and 2010. We have been performing tracking studies in Hatay, which is the most significant migration route for birds. This is the Belen birds migration routes. You know this is very important, the Hatay region. Belköy and Şenköy power plants. We have been providing ornithologic follow-up studies for them. Unfortunately, installation of turbines of course negatively impacts the wildlife, but I think it is a bit exaggerated. It's not that much negative. As we emphasized in 8 reports prepared in 4 years, we did not encounter any dead birds. Only 5 bats died. There is no other loss except for this, and these studies are still ongoing. At first, it was only the ornithologic evaluation reports done by an ornithologist, and then flora experts were included. Then landscape maintenance plans were prepared, and now noise modeling and analysis. The possible impacts of noise due to turbines on the wildlife. These reports include all of these items. Here I would like to talk about how we are preparing these reports, to which factors we pay attention in the reporting process. In many regions of Turkey, prepared over 80 ecosystem evaluation reports. We have a rather professional team in that. As you can see, there are landscape architects, ornithologists, flora experts, wildlife experts, and especially colleagues from different universities and different departments attended to this study. The format of this report complies with that of what is requested from the ministry. This is one of the recent one, Datça Wind Energy Power Plant. This says Capacity Increase Ecologic Evaluation Report. These reports are requested as there is increase in capacities. When we take a look at the contents of the report, you can see the definition of RES field, ecologic and biological resources, the flora of the field, and the vegetation type, structure, and inland amphibian, reptiles and birds, and mammals, and the properties of the field on which HES project will be installed in its interaction to wildlife. We are evaluating social facilities, energy connection lines, roads between turbines. Again, we evaluate all data available out there in the field, and we make our suggestions and submit to ministry. When we look at the results of many reports coming from the ministry, almost all of them are copy-pasted. We are studying in different regions of Turkey, but the sentences used are almost the same. At least 15 days of tracking in autumn, the above-mentioned bird types available in the field. It is emphasized that the reports regarding these items should be submitted to the ministry in 3 or 6 months time period. And there appears a commitment. You all know this commitment is very comprehensive. Of course, there are crucial commitments that have crucial enforcement when something goes wrong. We have been performing tracking practices with a team which includes autumn and spring migrations in 6 months period in every 2 years. The report formats are again in compliance with the ministry's reports. For the materials and methods, first of all, we gather literature data about the region the project is available. As we have been studying for long in these regions, we do not have time problem. We know that when we have a 1 day working, it sometimes comes back from the ministry regarding that at least we should prepare a report of at least 15 days of tracking. So this reporting process is performed in a very long term so that we can reuse the same inventories. We benefit from project introduction files and Google Satellite Look to prepare the application maps. Here the optic hardware is very important in field. I mean the binocle, telescope, photograph machine, the area where turbines are installed. We are investigating if is there any impact on wildlife or birds. We also speak with the people living there for long and with hunters, with shepherds, and representing the General Directorate of Environmental Safety and National Parks. We also share information with them and with the relevant authorities. Yes, the flora expert in the field. Flora experts investigates the flora of the field and if there are any endemic vegetation in the field, whether the turbine installation will affect the field or not. Again, herpetologists assist us in this. We perform studies on the basis of basins. While doing this, we benefit from the inventories and we try to preserve the nature. We are investigating if the land is an important or a crucial feeding area or reproduction area. Again, Hulusi mentioned, there are some regions where autumn birds can be seen. In Adapazarı RES project, we investigated these birds which are thought to be missing. We investigated their migration in October, especially in these migration periods. Spring migration is faster. You can see the storks wandering around while farmers irrigate the land. These are the white storks. These white storks are resting and feeding in these lands which is somewhat close to turbines, and our team can easily watch them. We performed plenty of studies in many regions. Kırklareli Vize region is a vivid area, especially for these migration periods. Birds flying from Europe, they pass over Istanbul Bosphorus and enter into Anatolia from this region. There are these storks and some wild birds. Sometimes they stop over or spend the night. They look for open land spaces. Here you can see thousands of storks together. Of course, there are some problematic regions. Let's talk about the Marmara Island. In January and February, there are almost no birds in this region. But in March and April, and if a turbine is going to be installed there in these months, you can see that it is the migration point of white pelicans. Of course, the installation of wind turbines is very critical. These sometimes may cause problems. I am going to give examples from foreign countries that are ongoing for about 10 to 15 years. The number of turbines to be installed should be considered and evaluated according to this migration. We can see this picture especially in the main migration roads. Again, in the Northwest region, we have been performing a study for about 2 years. Again, in Kangal, we have ongoing studies for about 2 years. At Kangal, there are mostly wild birds that migrate in summer. Of course, as Turkey is a watery land, there are many regions suitable for birds, especially in autumn and spring migration seasons, and towards the end of August and September, which is the productional season. We can see the birds out there, especially in Balıkesir-Gönen stream delta. You can see water birds there. Also, wrens are supporting the wildlife. I would like to emphasize this. For instance, here you can see rock partridges in Gelibolu-Burgaz wrens field. This was shot in 2nd of July 2013. They are not afraid of human beings because this is a preserved area. The number of partridges have increased out there. We have seen this because poaching is prohibited out there. This is an important picture. Red deers living in Dinar Rest field. Before the turbines were installed, there were no red deers. As you can see, the latter one is the baby. She can be easily hunted by the hunters. But representatives of Nature Foundation are feeding them, and we always see this baby because this place is protected by the security guards. Let's look at these fields. As you can see, hunters are looking for red deers, rabbits. They are outside the limited zone. As I said before, the shepherds in the field assist us a lot in creating inventories. They know very well which type of animals pass from one place to another. We combine our observations with shepherds' knowledge. Again, we talked with the farmers in Evrencik region. We are talking with shepherds. We are talking with villagers in Bergama-Belgrade region. We are giving them information about the migration dates. We are talking with regional people in Kocaeli, Gökdağ. Again, we have discussions with hunters in Vize to Res Kırklareli region. Again, we had a meeting with Hunters Association in Southwest Gelibolu-Bolayır region. Finally, we talk with the villagers in Datça Res Kızlan village. Talk about the wildlife and birds migrations. We also organize meetings with branch offices and help them participate in the studies. We also perform investigations with many non-governmental organizations. On 7th April, we did something this year whether turbines affect the migration of birds. Everybody came that day and we all observe how birds can fly comfortably and easily. When we look at turbines and birds migration, rest fields and birds migration routes are going in parallel because wind is the main factor in both of them. And there is the bird sensitivity map prepared by the ministry. I put this on purpose. The dark red regions are the sensitive regions. They are generally connected to the sea and they are watery areas and have great importance, especially for water birds. Again, we can look at the Aegean side. Yunan region is important. Hatay region is also important for the migrating birds. While obtaining this data, we tracked down the migrating birds who satellite transmitters on them. They are migrating in 10,000s. We can easily see their main routes by using a satellite transmitter. Great portion of the European population is passing through Istanbul Bosphorus and entering into the Anatolia, passes over Hatay and then heads to the south. And when we look at the imperial eagle in Bulgaria, they start from Thrace, follow Aegean borders and fly to Rhodes Island. Another imperial eagle with a ring on it. It is ringed in Hungary. When we look at these wild birds, it is possible to see different kind of roads. That's why you cannot perform a tracking study just by putting some satellite transmitters or rings. The migration routes are very wide. Again, in Finland, you can see the autumn migration routes, but honey buzzards ringed in the same region. As you can see, they can fly from different regions. Again, lesser spotted eagles are using the same route with storks. Again, a saker falcon. It can draw very diverse routes. Again, here you can see another saker falcon flying from Ukraine. In this report prepared by the ministry, I guess while evaluating the reports we prepared, they are looking at this atlas too. Especially the orange and red areas are the main roads, so they request more tracking and more data. Here you can see the fish eagle. Actually, it is passing through very diverse roads again, but it is mostly connected to Istanbul Bosphorus and the Manyas bird sanctuary and meet in Hatay. Here you can see the black kites. Turkey is on the critical migration route between the south and the north. We can also see the honey buzzards. These are recorded at different dates. The lesser spotted eagle. Eleonora's falcon, especially the ministry, is very sensitive for this bird because its species is under threat. They are mostly seen in the Aegean regions and Muğla. However, they are not high in numbers. They mostly breed in the islands. Kestrel especially are higher in number in summer season during migration. The little kestrel is one of the species that migrates to the south. We can mostly see them in the Middle Asia, Middle Anatolia, Red-footed falcons are mainly recorded in Istanbul region. They generally fly from Ankara region or the Lakes region to Hatay. Also, we have a bird ringing project which we started in 2002. When we look at the ringing studies done on singing birds, we can see these birds in 18 European countries. These have no borders. For instance, white wagtail is the most significant loss is the loss of habitat. Whether it is feeding area or reproduction area is very crucial in this. As you can see, after turbines were installed and some years later, the birds chose completely different route. At bottlenecks where intense wind turbines will be installed, this is very clearly seen. Another thing is that they feel uncomfortable. Although the noise is uncomfortable for us, it has some attractive signs for the birds. Of course, in the older technologies, the noise was very loud, but today the noise is much lower. Let's look at the studies. According to the results of a study performed in England, the number of wild birds has been greatly decreased in the turbine areas. Clashing is the least seen thing. When we perform tracking studies, almost every day we see tens of fox. We see snakes, we see birds smashed by cars. But this collision is possible, this clashing is possible only for the pigeons. For instance, if they are in the breeding season. Eurasian griffins sometimes accidentally smash to the wind turbines and they die. I would like to show you some examples from foreign sources. A duck was killed, especially around the wind turbines installed very near to water areas. Birds, singing birds, seagulls, ducks. The figures are also given for other types of birds. The rock partridge that were killed in the 3 years period are very less. We can see the data here. In order to prevent this, we need to pay attention to significant breeding areas and sensitive protection areas. This was also mentioned by the previous speakers. Also, tracking studies should be done beginning from the pre-construction process during the operation in a certain period of time. Again, increasing the visibility of turbine wings is significant in decreasing the clashing rates. The orange color, for example, can be a warning sign. Reporting studies, all the data are gathered and the evaluation is submitted to the ministry. Landscape maintenance plan is required for each land, but in Konya, even if there is no bush available, they ask for landscape maintenance plan. As you know, some turbine fields are installed in agricultural areas. Again, these require landscape maintenance plans. These are the visibility analysis of landscape studies. Image modeling studies. There are many species in nature. There are no studies in Turkey, and it's not so easy to evaluate the condition of these animals with this short-term studies. And image modeling studies are performed in accordance with this. Dear Chairman, pardon me, my last 2 to 3 seconds. Monitoring studies. We are performing these before the operation and during and after the construction. We are investigating the bird types that are using the region. We specify the local species that have been using this area for long. So we comprehensively express how much they are impacted from the turbines. 6 months of monitoring studies are suggested to be done in March and April in the spring migration period and in September and October for the autumn migration period. Generally, the studies start at 8 o'clock in the morning and continues till 8 p.m. And if there are bats, then we can perform night observations. These are the monitoring studies that we have been performing lately. We can see more birds when it is watery areas. Monitoring studies in Hatay Belen. You may not see this intensity, but there are some bottlenecks in Hatay region, so we can see such images more frequently. This is in Kırşehir Gecek. Little water accumulations in Kangal region are very critical for water birds. Again, Dinar İncesu autumn monitoring studies. You can see comprehensive monitoring studies in Adapazarı. We have performed monitoring studies in this autumn in Pazarköy Res, Koru Res. Okay, I'm going to finish. When we demand the field ecosystem studies, this is an ornithologic monitoring report, and these are the studies in Gelibolu region, in studies in Çeşme region, in Karadağ region. Thank you.
Türbün kurulmuşsa etrafında sabah, öğlen, akşam olmak üzere tarama çalışması yapıyoruz. Ölü, yaralı birey olmadığı hakkında. Ve bu şekilde türbünlerden ne derece etkilenip etkilenmedikleri kapsamlı bir şekilde ortaya koyuyoruz. Bu 6 aylık izleme çalışmaları genellikle ilkbahar göç döneminde Mart-Nisan ayında, sonbahar göç döneminde ise Eylül-Ekim ayında olması öneriliyor. Genellikle çalışmalar sabah 8'de başlayıp akşama kadar, eğer yarasaların bulunduğu bir ortamda varsa gece gözlemleri de yapılması gerekir. Bu bizim son dönemdeki yaptığımız izleme çalışmaları. Sulak alan olduğu zaman daha çok kuşları görebiliyoruz. Hatay bölgesindeki izleme çalışmalarımız Belen'de. Görüyorsunuz, belki birçok bu yoğunluğu sizin sahalarınızda görmemiş olabilirsiniz ama özellikle Hatay bölgesindeki belki dar boğazlar var. Ana göç rotalarının olduğu kısım. O kısımlarda bu tür görüntüleri daha sık görebiliyoruz. Kırşehir, Geyecek'te uzun süreli. Kangal bölgesindeki küçük bir su birikintisi özellikle su kuşları, ördekler açısından önemli bir nokta. Yine Dinar İncesu sonbahar göç izleme çalışmalarını yürütüyoruz. Adapazarı'nda yine kapsamlı bir şekilde izleme çalışmalarını ilkbahar ve sonbahar dönemi olarak tamamladık. Yine Pazarköy Res izleme çalışmalarını bu sonbahar göç döneminde ayrıntılı bir şekilde yaptık. Yine Koru Res Hoca bir parantez açmak istiyorum bu konuda. Bitiriyorum. Teşekkür ediyorum. Bu saha ekosistem değerlendirme raporunu talep ederken aynı zamanda 15 günlük izlemeyi de yaparak birlikte oldu. Raporu hem ornitolojik izleme ve ekosistem değerlendirme raporu şeklinde sonuçlandı. Evet, Gelibolu sahasındaki çalışmalar Çeşme bölgesinde, Karadağ bölgesinde teşekkür ediyorum.
Thank you for the information you have given. As a result, to summarize this presentation with one sentence, we can see that turbines and res can coexist with birds. Now I would like to give the floor to Ibrahim Erden. The floor is yours, Ibrahim Erden.
First of all, hello to everyone. I would like to welcome you all. I would like to thank again this crowd, this little crowd, for listening to us at this late hour of the day. One would wish Barış Bey and myself wouldn't be here as a last-minute surprise, but there would be Recep Bey and Mustafa Bey from Ministry of Forestry. This hall would be very crowded, would be out there and listening to them, so that we can ask our questions regarding the issues, the problems we are facing with, about forestry law practices and possible forestry authorization practices. These are the possible questions, so that I wouldn't have to repeat my presentation that I prepared 1 month ago. Now there's a very problematic condition for the forestry. For 2 days actually many speakers are talking about this. We are trying to define it in a more specific way. To repeat, as a member of the organization committee, first of all, I would like to apologize from you, because you may have been waiting for the Ministry of Forests to come. We took their word and invited them to the program, but they were unable to come. I guess maybe we did something to blame. Here, what is the subject matter? It is of course the forestry authorizations. What is the problem in forestry? These are the authorizations failed to be obtained both in the beginnings of project development and in the investment processes. I am not talking about the law enacting and ecosystem evaluation technique of the Ministry of Forestry and Water Affairs. Above all, investors who are trying to develop projects in different parts of Turkey are unable to obtain their authorizations due to the decisions of General Directorate of Forestry or other general directorates. Thus, even in wind measurements, we have to choose between legal entity lands, treasury lands, or grazing lands instead of forest lands. As you can guess, there are not much legal entity lands or treasury lands on top of a hill. Sometimes there may be grazing lands only. Again, this is the forest lands. Thus, in the development of projects, this causes serious problems because we are not going to make any measurements if this problem continues. Instead of measuring the optimum land or the optimum area, people will begin to measure what is measurable. Then while we are talking about developing the right projects for the target of 20,000 megawatts, then we ourselves are actually making mistakes, because we have to apply for licensing. We need to obtain project. We have to put these projects in practice because we are an investor company. So actually, like a lame duck, we'll try to walk. Why do these problems exist? Hulusi Bey also mentioned. There are two factors. One is ecosystem evaluation statement. What does this anticipate? Ecosystem evaluation statement. First of all, besides the chat process, there is the ecosystem evaluation report. This in fact summarizes these subjects in a statement, but it also represents a second process. Both the relevant public sector and the private institutions have negative opinions about this. As this is an ongoing process, nobody has a problem with its continuation. The studies that the lecturer has been doing must be done. We have no problems about this. Here there is only one matter. The investor is liable to a process, and this is a limited time period. And in this time period, this authorization is not the only one. We have to obtain authorizations from over 20 other institutions. What we expect from the Ministry of Forestry is that we just do not want the processes to be delayed and in compliance with the legal laws and rules, but the practicing of them with no flexibility. This is what we want. Forestry applications that were done should not be delayed 1 or 2 years. This is the first one. And secondly, it is the forestry law enforcement legislation. and its 17th and 18th clauses. Hulusi Bey also gave the figures. There was a workshop organized in Ankara by Turkish Wind Energy Association. Representatives from the Ministry of Forestry had come to that meeting. I shared with them a presentation. I'm going to repeat it very rapidly. Hulusi Bey has already mentioned the figures in general. What is the anticipation here? This regulation regulates the authorization for forestry regarding its objective, position and the cost. It actually changes only one basic thing. It completely changes the field authority cost, which is paid annually. It changes the method of calculation and the figures that will come out of the calculation tremendously. I will not mention the rest. What do we say for the field authorization cost? There is a field and there is a meter square cost defined for this field. Then we multiply this with a multiplier called authorization type. It can be wind or solar or nuclear power plant investment. It can be coal power plant. I want to talk about them later on. It has a second coefficient which is called the ecological coefficient. It classifies Turkey, Istanbul, Izmit and Izmir. 1 times 3, the target is not to do. This is okay. This should be present in the law. If you are shutting down Istanbul, then you're shutting down the law. A political body can say that I do not want any wind energy in Istanbul. But this needs to be regulated by law. This is how legislators think. So this practice does not seem legal. As I mentioned, there are different multipliers for different practices. Here a thermic power plant is at 8, while the other is... Yes, it is 8 again. Wind power plants are multiplied by 2. If you are, for example, constructing a harbor, a railway, or a transmission line with 0.3, 0.5, then you multiply this with 2. It is 2 for wind power plant, but 0.3 as I am doing the transmission line. There is an irregularity. It is the two pieces of the same investment. There is a certain classification in forests, but now we are reflecting this as a cost. In forests with 70% close-up or more, we multiply this with 2 again. Then in Istanbul, Izmir and Izmit, multiply it with 3. At the second classification, in Antalya, Aydın, Balıkesir, we multiply it with 2.5. The lowest is somebody ever constructs a wind power there, we multiply it with 1.1 even. It is not 1, 10% more. Now where does 24 times come from? As Hulusi Bey said, we worked on 2 different scenarios. If we perform this project in Izmir, in a forest with a close-up of 71% or more, and this is possible in Izmir and also in Izmit, there we didn't try 2 alternatives. Is let us have less number of turbines, let us occupy minimum forestry area, so we should use 2.5 and 3 megawatt turbines for this, or 1 to 1.5 megawatt turbines. Then you have a wider area, maybe it is doubled or tripled maybe. The second example project, now we are performing a 30 megawatt project in Manisa. Yes, it is 1.6, sorry, it is 2.2, not 3. Actually, Manisa is not so perfect in regards to wind. It cannot be compared to Izmir or Balıkesir. I guess this is reason for the multiplier. I guess they think those who produce less shall pay less. But our income is already low. Now here is the results. The project in Izmir in the tough forest is normally 45,000 Turkish lira annually for the first decade. There is a 85% discount. At average it is 45,000 for forest costs. We anticipate that this project covers 48 hectare of forest area. If this regulation is applied one way or another, we heard that it's retreated, but as Yunus Bey also said, we also heard that they're going to publish a regulation about it, put it into effect. So it becomes 45,300 Turkish lira. After 10 years, while we were to pay 865,000 Turkish lira, now we pay almost 6 million Turkish lira for forest cost. Later on, if this project covers lesser area, now we are installing on a 36 hectare area. This time, the amount rises to 4.5 million Turkish lira after 10 years. I'm going to show an income ratio, but let me tell you, what if this project is founded in Manisa? Then the ratios are 2 million Turkish lira after 10 years, according to the new regulation. While the current amount is 400,000. As you can see, it is already 10 times higher right now. And 10 years later, it rises from 300 to 3 million. This means 10 times higher. In the previous one, it was from 45,000 to 800,000 and from 300,000 to 6 million. I'm going to touch upon this rapidly. What is the revenue of this project? With a 35% capacity factor, it produces 90 gigawatt hour annually. We calculated this out of from the incentive and say that if we can sell this to the market, then the amount will be higher. For the approximate annual revenue, which is $6.6 million, but so let us say $8.50 cents. Not much for the electric price. It's an increase of 10 to 15%. This project has $6.6 million of annual revenue, as I said. In the first decade, if this regulation passes, then it is going to give its endorsement, give its 5 to 10% of its endorsement. And after 10 years, it's going to hand out 40 to 50% of its endorsement. In the first decade, we are already trying to pay the financing. We have already invested a great amount of money at the very beginning. Then we are going to pay back our finance. Then after 10 years, we are going to pay 40 to 50% of our endorsement to Ministry of Forestry, which is, of course, our partner, company partner. I guess nobody will invest in any project. But then how are we going to fulfill this 20,000 megawatt target is uncertain. This is how it is in the good regions. Let's think about an area in the middle Anatolia with less wind rate. Now, if the annual cost is 67,000 Turkish lira, it says it is the 6.5 fold according to this calculation just for the first decade. The amount reaches to almost 500,000. After a decade, it reaches to millions again. Even if a project in the middle Anatolia has such a great financial burden, then we can only perform this work only out there. But from now on, it will be hard to establish a wind power plant with high quality wind rate in an area, for instance, on top of a hill. As Yunus Bey said, there are no paybacks to TWEC. We are not paying any money to TWEC in the first decade. We are just paying back the finance. If they have requested it, then it's not possible that we can do it anyway. Then this means that we are doing this investment for God's sake. There are also some issues in the current draft. Our time is very limited. I am finishing up. The problems regarding the power plant investment processes for wind measurement posts should not be practiced in wind investments. There is actually a huge impact on the environment in regards to power plant investments. We should obtain authorizations accordingly. But to obtain a wind measurement post, we should not need to apply it first to the region and then to the Ministry of Forestry and then finally to Prime Ministry. We believe this process should be eliminated. The relevant Forestry Directorate or any relevant regional directorate can easily provide this authorization. I am talking about installing a post of 60 to 80 meters long only in an area of almost 100 meters square. Besides this, there should not be any applications that will delay the investment processes for years long. As we have seen in our meetings, the forestry has such a concern that they are saying that very wide turbine areas are open to use in the fields which we allocated. We do not want this to happen. They are saying to put this regulation to prevent such events. although it seems logical, but there should be a standard, a worldwide standard, on the roads, on the installation areas. If there are any abuses, then I guess this will be prevented. Finally, in Gelibolu, in Istanbul, and in different parts of Turkey, there are projects that receive pre-license or approval for pre-licensing. We believe acquisition is a must here. We hope authorities pay importance to this. We hope this regulation is retroactive, which we have said almost a month ago. I hope this will not be practiced through declarations. After asking for the opinions of sector representatives, I hope we reach a common ground and find the right thing to do. I thank you for listening to me. Have a good night.
We thank you, Ibrahim Erdan, both for the regulation and the declaration. Although it is retracted, he gave us a detailed information. I would like to make a brief summary, not to take your time. For the regulation, namely the 17th and 18th Acts of the Forestry Law, Ibrahim Bey defined its content in detail. I would like to give an example on this. In wind turbines, as you know, the energy produced in 3 wings, when we divide this into these wings, one of the wings paybacks the financer. In 15 years' time, its revenue goes completely to the investor, financer. The second flap is the operation, maintenance, contribution margin. This revenue is for the expenses necessary to operate a power plant. And for the third flap, if the project is good, it continues to swirl and make money for the financer. Although the financing is reset, this does not reset. It is not reset. But now there comes out maintenance costs, spare parts costs, and so on. So to summarize, the amounts defined in the 17th and 18th Acts of the law corresponds to almost just one flap of that power plant. But this is not the end. For instance, when an investor comes out and says that he wants to have only a single turbine, nothing more, some portions are restricted to avoid such things. So we were also not sure if this was going to be successful. So we cancelled it. However, institutions must cooperate, and this cooperation should be relevant for the regulations. This is not only for institutions, but also for private sector and private sector representatives. We all need to endeavor for such a cooperation. Now, I just do not want to take your time, so I'm giving the floor to Barış Ergun. The floor is yours. Hello, Barış Ergun from Al Enerji. I am a member of TWEC. We have been working on the prohibitions in Gelibolu for a long time, especially with TWEC. And I am in the commission established together with Ministry of Forestry. So I'm very indulged in this subject matter. I'm going to keep it very short because I think we are out of time. Generally rests in the bird migration routes, ecosystem evaluation report practices in Europe, and the interaction between human activities and the birds. This will be a very short presentation. I will skip this. There's a wind project in the US, that is Penascal Wind Power Plant in Texas. It is situated in the most greatest migration corridors. They observed only 3 million birds flying away in a 3-month time period. Not only the birds flying, there are also people living here. And this project was put into practice. It's now operating. So it does not mean that a wind power plant cannot be made on a birds migration corridors. It is possible that they coexist. There is another example from Spain's Cadiz region. Let's skip this. There are almost 13 projects
in Cadiz, Spain, and there is 360 megawatt capacity of turbines here. These projects are working. They are all on the birds' migration routes or on the living areas of wild birds. So how can this happen? Only changing the visuality of the turbines is not efficient. They are using bird radar. For instance, while a person cannot see in a foggy weather, this radar can detect any kind of birds, including small ones, big ones, bats, wild birds, etc. And when in danger, it is possible to close all or half of the turbines in place. This is the Cadiz, Spain. At first there were the birds that were killed. It will be wrong to say that no birds are killed during power plant operation. Thanks to the precautions taken, there is almost a decrease of 75% in the bird deaths. And today there is the radar practices. For instance, an ornithologist should be available in the field when there are wild birds. He or she gets in front of the radar and intervenes the system when possible. So it's possible to have RES projects close to living areas of birds or their migration routes. When we look at the precautions to be taken, it is the increasing of visibility, planning of the distances between turbines or RES power plants for the birds that are flying over. They have audible warning systems. Their impact can be discussed. Lecturer Ali Bey also mentioned sometimes we ruin the living habitats of the birds. We need to reorganize these habitats and make some landscaping somewhat far from the turbines, so they can move to this more attractive area. Everybody mentioned the ecosystem evaluation report in Turkey. I want to skip this. Now I've come to Gelibolu Istanbul projects. This project was initiated 7 years ago. Its application was done 6 years ago. So this 850 megawatt RES project developed in the last 7 years will become idle. The investor will lose its time. There is also the investment cost. I'm not talking about only the time and costs. There is also the cost of running after other opportunities. So this should be taken into consideration. These projects correspond to 1/3 of the current installed capacity. Moreover, TWEC, namely the Treasury, will lose additional revenue. Also, new investments were initiated in that field. A special transformer unit and energy regulators were installed in this region only for the Gelibolu project, and the investment is about 100 million Turkish lira. With the prohibition, all of these investments will become idle. As I mentioned before, thanks to the precautions taken, it is possible to build RES projects in sensitive or susceptible ecosystems. I would like to draw your attention to the projects in Europe, especially in England. There is over 800 megawatt wind power plant installed on susceptible ecosystems. Again, there is 1.720 megawatt RES projects that is planning to be installed offshore. The impacts of these projects are under discussion. These projects can be delayed, but the realization of these projects is considered excellent for public interest. Except for the protection of the area, these projects have reductive impacts on carbon emissions or the greenhouse gases. So it's important to put these projects into practice. While England discussing this matter on this perspective. Compared to us, its welfare level is too high. It is affected from energy costs or current account deficits at a minimum level. Here in Turkey, there is a possibility to prohibit projects such as Istanbul and Gelibolu. So we should not let this happen. And there are projects in Portuguese. They have different projects in susceptible ecosystems, which are called as Natura areas. But each project has its own characteristics. If the ecosystem evaluation report is suitable, then this project is considered suitable and can be put into practice in that ecosystem area. So, what is the distribution of mortality due to birds' activities? 58 of them are due to buildings, 13% is due to energy transport lines, and only 1 in 10,000 is due to wind power plants. So, making a prohibition on wind by publishing a statement or a declaration is, I think, very wrong. And also, if there will be a prohibition, then putting this prohibition on the project holders who are working for about 7 years, for example, does not seem fair to me. As a result, RES projects can coexist with susceptible ecosystems with the condition to get the necessary precautions. I thank you all. We thank Barış Bey. Actually, for the time being, this meeting is ended, but if you have any questions, we can take them. Although there are no representatives from the forestry, still there are panelists who can answer. I guess there are no questions. Okay, thank you for staying up that late and listening to us. Now I would like to offer the certificates to our panelists given by TWEC.